Shabbat Shalom. I figured we can say Shabbat Shalom many, many times. We need the Shabbat and we need the peace. Shabbat Shalom. So I wanted to share some reflections on prayer that have been growing out of my recent conversations with most of you, with friends, and through our study of text. What I share here is a blend of some texts and also conversations that I am paraphrasing. One of the responses to our discussion was, every night before I go to bed, I pause to speak with God. I thank God for the goodness in my life, sometimes with words, sometimes with silence, sometimes with nothing more than the feeling of gratitude settling in my heart. Another one. Once a Catholic friend of mine who had already lost her husband and whose son was in critical condition prayed in a way that I had never heard before. She said to God with fierce honesty, "You have already taken so much from me. Don't you dare take my son." It was raw, it was real, and that too was prayer. Another one. Even after all these discussions we are having, I still don't know what prayer is. When I recite prayer, they fill me with memories of my grandparents praying with the same prayers, and I feel them, and the bond is ever strong. I cannot pray by myself. It's more joyful and more meaningful to recite these prayers with others. Rabbi Levi Kelman says that praying is like playing jazz. The more you pray, the richer it becomes. You can pray alone, but the magic happens with others. Sometimes we harmonize, sometimes we improvise, sometimes we drift into our own rhythm. This door is a sheet of music, but reading the words is not the same as praying them. Jewish prayer lives in the space between the words and the prayer. So what is prayer? What is your prayer practice? Is it a song, the songs that we sing? Is it a word, movement, meditation maybe, a whisper, yelling, pleading? And to whom do we think we are speaking to? Our daily prayers, including our very beautiful Beth Am informal in spirit services, trace their roots back to biblical forefathers and foremothers, and even deeper in the rabbinic midrashic imaginations. According to the Midrash, Bereshit Rabbah, when Adam saw the sun set for the first time, he panicked. He thought the world was coming to an end. He prayed to God, "Please, God, bring back the light." When the sun rose the next morning, Adam breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, that's how it works? That, the Midrash says, was the first human prayer, moment of prayer, a moment of fear transformed into gratitude. Prayer, tefillah in Hebrew, or davening in Yiddish, or okusava in Uganda, is the heartbeat of Jewish spiritual life. Every time in the daily, weekly, and yearly cycle, it is accompanied by prayer with different rhythms. Blessing marks our meals, our holidays, the first moments of walking, the ordinary rhythms of our daily life. Jewish time is structured around the belief that there is a moment to pause, to praise, and sometimes to plead. To pray is not to speak. It is also to reflect, to take stock, to align our inner world with something greater than ourselves. And the Torah uses so many different words to describe prayer, in contrast to how prayer is described in English. Atera, digging, unearthing. Techina, supplicating, pleading. Siach, planting, conversation. Prayer in the Hebrew Bible is not one thing, it's many things. It's digging, it's pleading, it's crying, it's singing, it's planting, it's conversation. Prayer is not one size fits all. Our ancestors prayed whatever they had, and also depending on their situations. They used voices, tears, silence, even laughter. And we're talking about Sarah in the Bible here. Jewish prayer is different. It's older, it's more layered, it's more demanding, but it's also freer. It's very freeing. Our rabbis say in Brachot that Abraham invented the morning prayer. How? He woke up ridiculously early. That's why we attribute morning prayer to him. The Midrash imagines that Abraham standing outside in his tent very early in the morning, probably yawning and stretching and watching the dawn break and saying, God, thank you for another day. Jewish traditions all hold Isaac, that he instituted the afternoon prayer. In our last week's parashah, after his mother passed away, Isaac prayed and meditated in the field. And that is where he met his future wife, Rebekah. This week we see Isaac praying for his wife, Rebekah, to conceive. God hears Isaac's plea. They have their twins, Esau and Jacob. But before they do, Rebekah stands in prayer herself, demanding God, why am I alive if this pregnancy is so hard on me? I believe Isaac forgot to include something in his prayer. He maybe forgot to make sure that the kids that he was getting did not fight each other so much. But if you would like to hear about that, come tomorrow. Ada is teaching about the brothers Esau and Jacob and their fights. Tefillah is not a list of words. It's a mode of expression. Whether or not we know every word, it's irrelevant. Sometimes knowing the literal meaning can even get in the way. Our teachers teach that prayer is about repetition, familiarity, rhythm, and subtle ways our breath sings with the ancient breath of our people. One of our teachers, Rabbi Rachel Adler, says that the Kaddish, for example, is basically a giant pile of verbs. It is coming, rocking, in its coming and rocking quality. We hear it gadal, veit kadash, veit baal, veit ramam, all these words, some of them that we do not know they are in Aramaic, and some of them we do not know their meanings. She says it's not about understanding every syllable. It's about letting these words carry us to a place of memory, to a place where we know these people, to the stories we shared with the people that we are remembering. It does not matter if we believe that God, as you understand God to be, hears our prayers or not. Does it matter if we believe that God hears our prayers or not? In the book of Samuel, Hannah silently prays, her lips moving. Eli, the priest at the time, thinks she is drunk. The Midrash says God scolds Eli, saying, you could learn a thing or two from this woman. If you want to know real prayer, God says, learn it from Hannah. Her prayer becomes the blueprint for silent Amidah, lips moving, voice silent, intention overflowing, our hearts open. After Hannah prayed, because she was also a barren woman, she conceived. Was it God? Was it biology? Was it mystery? The rabbis cannot agree, and honestly, neither can we. Different thinkers offer different ways to see God's role in our world, especially in healing. Heschel says God is our partner in healing the world, and prayers push us to choose good. Rabbi Mordechai Kaplan says God does not intervene supernaturally, but God is the force inside us that helps us to grow and to move forward. Bachya Ibn Pekuda, a medieval thinker, believes that God orchestrates everything, period. I don't agree with his determinism, but I appreciate his insistence that God is always present and active in our world. Of course, there are times when prayers seem unanswered, and one example is the case of Moses. In Deuteronomy Rabbah, The Midrash really exaggerates that Moses pleaded with God 515 times to enter the promised land. After the 515th time, God says, enough already, stop. Even God has boundaries, we learn. But the Midrash continues to say that God treasured each and every one of these prayers, even the unanswered ones, especially the unanswered ones. I believe God intervenes, not always in ways we imagine, though, but through the moral will Heschel describes, maybe through the push to self-improvement that Rabbi Kaplan champions, or maybe the quiet unfolding of the mystery behind our lives and our world that Ibn Pekuda trusts. God intervenes in the courage we summon, the conversation, the compassion we offer, the choices we make, the resilience we build, and the communities we sustain. Perhaps not by reshaping biology or controlling history as we know it, but through the human heart made in the image of God. And perhaps that's why we pray, not because we are certain God will respond, but perhaps because prayer shapes us into the kind of people who can respond to the world with godliness. Shabbat Shalom.